I haven't seen any indication that these Native American groups, which we are claiming relationships with, are really the descendants of the first people in the Americas. In other words, to make a long story short, I think this Aboriginal thing is nonsense. I think it's anti-African. I think it's destructive to our community.
Watch me do it for my ancestors. Watch me do it for my ancestors. They try to say that it ain't happening. It ain't what? But you know that they be capping on. Watch me do it for my ancestors. Watch me do it for my ancestors. They try to say that it ain't happening. It ain't what? But I know that they be capping on. Now they wanna ask about a boat. Looking at them cause I know that it's a joke. It's a joke. Because they don't really see that they needed the boats more than forced slavery. Dumb nigga. So miss me with the dumb shit. My ancestors built the drums with the drumsticks. So you could move on your feet. So I could groove to the beat. But you rather be an Indian. But you look more like a pretendian. Columbus named you when he came through with Spain. Oof. You wanna say DNA ain't real. You need help, take your ass to Dr. Phil. Why you wanna steal from the natives? Leave them alone, you got your own flavors. Stop being a culture vulture, please. Stop being a culture vulture, nigga, please. Stop being a culture vulture, please. Stop being a culture vulture. Watch me do it for my ancestors. Watch me do it for my ancestors. They try to say that it ain't happening. It ain't what? But you know that they be capping on. Watch me do it for my ancestors. Watch me do it for my ancestors. They try to say that it ain't happening. It ain't what? But you know that they be capping on. What's good? Peace to the chat. It's your brother YK The Truth. And tonight, we're going to teach the Abos, where are those slave ships? After tonight, you will no longer be able to ask, where are those slave ships? Because I'm going to go in depth to what happened to those slave ships. You see, there's two types of people. There's one person who asks a question because of denial. And there's another type of person who asks a question because they want to know. You get what I'm saying? So we're going to find out what happened to those slave ships. So let me play this video for y'all. Let's get it. Let's go.
Where them slave ships? That's why I'm trying to figure out where those slave ships that they bought 12 million Africans from Africa. That's right. They ain't brought no 12 million people on no ragged ass boat across the Atlantic. There was already melanated people living here. They won't tell you that, melanated people. But I'm trying to figure out where them slave ships at. You know, white folks love to keep shit for souvenirs. If you brought 12 million people over here, there should be some slave ships somewhere. But they ain't got none. Where they at?
I was born in this 4-room house right next to the Union Baptist Church in Plateau, Mobile, Alabama. In this house, my grandmother had taught us a whole lot about this history. But me being a little girl, I didn't know that this history was...
Now, let's stop right there. What's up to Kemet TV? Shout out to Darkside Afrocentrist. Now, they always tell us, go to your grandma. Go to your grandma. So you see a grandma right here saying they told us to never forget about the Clotilda. So let's get it.
as important as it is. They wanted us to remember that our family came over on the Clotilda, the last slave ship.
The remains of the last slave ship that came to America have been found. The schooner Clotilda brought 110 Africans to U.S. shores in 1860, decades after it was illegal to import slaves into the country.
86 feet long and 23 feet wide, according to its registration documents. Frames of oak, as well as planks of southern yellow pine.
Now, remember that. They said plains of oak. So don't never let anybody ask you, where are the slave ships? We have to change that language. Ask them to ask you this. Where are the wooden slave ships? Because it gives a different kind of connotation than just ships. Because we want to know, what are these slave ships made of? So let's change the language. Don't ask me where the slave ships at. Ask me, where are those wooden slave ships made of oak? Because we're going to get to this. Let's go.
Fasteners all made of iron. We haven't seen a single fastener yet made of copper or brass. We've got a ship of the right size in what we think is the right place. At this stage where we're at, this could be Clotilda.
Yesterday, the team announced they had found the Clotilda.
Melanated people. But I'm trying to figure out where them slave ships at. You know, white folks love to keep shit for souvenirs.
Now, family, this is where it's going. And I'm not trying to pick at the elder. You know, shout out to the elder. But what I'm about to do is, what I'm about to say is not going to be disrespectful at all. Just stick around. Now, where is the elder got one tooth in his mouth? And this is not a joke. This is not to be funny. The elder has one tooth. So I'm going to ask, where are your teeth? And I'm not saying that to be funny, because it's going to relate to where the slave ships is at. So let me share my screen real quick with y'all. Let me share my screen real quick. Now, it says right here, let's get it. It says, tooth decay is similar to wood dry rot. Okay? So when you ask for the slave ships, you got to know what happened to these wooden slave ships. And we're going to get in it, because one of the reasons why those ships is not here today is because of wood rot. So I'm not trying to throw the elder under the bus, but wood is similar to a tooth. It decays. You got wood decay. But I'm gonna let me finish the video. Just stay with me.
If you brought 12 million people over here, there should be some slave ships somewhere.
Because we have shipworms in the area. These are teredos, and they are actually mollusks. They are not worms. They have a mollusk-like structure on the end of them, and then a body too that trails behind them as they burrow through wood. So they are actually able to get their nutrients and their food out of wood. So they actually do some serious damage to wood, and for hundreds of years they did this to ships in Europe and all over the world, and they've been doing that to piers here as well.
You see, we have woodworm, we have shipworms. They eat the ships up. We can't find no ships from the 1600s to 1500s like that. This is what a shipworm looks like.
see the channels that they've eaten through. And here's what happens when they really get a hold of it. It's all teredo.
And they're called teredo navalis. And they eat through ships. It's ship worms. So when you ask for the ships, they literally ate through them all.
It's rubbish. They burrow through, eating their way through. They never quite get to the edge. So you'd never know if they were there until you cut it open and find it. Here we go. Here's the tail end of one. They're horrible little creatures.
Now, we gotta also talk about termites, because there's termites that was bought from African ships. They were brought from African ships. Now let's read it. It says that Heterotermis perfidus has an unknown origin and may not be a valid species. It is known only from St. Helena Island in the South Atlantic Ocean, where it was introduced from a slave ship that traveled between West Africa. So we have shipworms, we have termites, we have wood decay. Wood is perishable. That's one of the worst materials that you can use. That's why wood is so cheap. But let's keep going. Now, it says right here, currently, experts believe that termites were brought to remote island of St. Helena by wooden slave ships around 1840. Many of these ships fell into disrepair. They were broken down and used as firewood on the island. Ultimately, this wood has been infested with termites. Let's keep going.
Uh-oh. Even though it's a boat, it can happen to you. Termites. Termite infestation. So if you've heard of a house being tinted and treated with a poison gas to kill all of the termites, this is what a house would look like. This is what a boat would look like.
Okay, now we're going to get into wood decay, because I wasn't trying to, pick on the elder. Peace, Chris Cross. I wasn't trying to pick on the elder when I asked, what happened to his teeth, because tooth decay is similar to wood decay. So we're going to see what happened to these wooden ships. So these abos could stop asking, where's those ships? Where's the ships? Where's the boats? Don't ask me where's the boats. Ask me, where are those wooden ships? So let's go.
Ever since man began to use wood thousands of years ago, it has been known that dead trees weaken and finally fall to the ground. On the moist floor of the forest, softening and disintegration increase rapidly. Total destruction of the wood soon occurs. This is decay, and through the ages it has been a challenge, robbing man of full use of valuable wood resources. Builders of fortifications knew that certain woods resisted decay. Even so, all timbers used outdoors were eventually destroyed. Destruction was most rapid where wood touched the earth or in other moist places. Wooden members such as the rim and spokes of this ancient cannon wheel decayed and had to be replaced. During the centuries that wooden ships have sailed the seas, decay has been a continuing and critical problem. Decay has caused the loss of more ships than all the storms and wars of history.
Now, you heard that? It said decays have destroyed more ships than all the storms and wars of history. So wood decay is a major reason why we don't have more wooden ships today. Okay. Now, what I want to do is I want to share my screen again. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a list of the oldest surviving ships. Okay. And when we go down, hold on. All right. Now let's go down to the 1600s, you know, where the slave trade started off, right? And we're going to go to, you know, not just these little rowboats you be seeing. We're going to go to actual transport ships. Now, this is from the 1550s, all right? And all you see is a bunch of wood. That's all you see is a bunch of wood, right? And this is the list of the oldest surviving ships. So when you ask us, yo, show us some slave ships, well, why don't you just show us some regular ships? Let's take the slave ship out of it. Just show us regular ships from that time. Now look, you see boats. See, you might have little boats like this, but this is not traveling to and from Africa. It's not. So you can't use examples like this. What you have to do is show me transport boats. Now, this is a transport boat from the 1700s. And this is what we have left because you got wood rot, you got Teredo navalis, the shipworm. So this is what's left of a lot of those boats. So if you abos can't show me a ship from the 1600s, a transport ship, don't ask for the slave ships. Where are those slave ships? Just show me some regular ships then. And this is what I call a checkmate, but we're going to get back to the video. Let's get back to the video. Don't ever say, where's those boats and where's those ships? You can't.
Ships and boats in harbor, with their ports and hatches closed, were especially subject to decay and still are. Decay remains a worldwide problem, destroying wood during its storage and use.
Done by choice. Now, before I go any further, I want you to note again that during the 60s.
Yo, this dude, Dane Calloway, is wicked. I'm going to show you. Watch this. Watch this.
1800s and until the near end of the 1800s, rowboats or cargo ships were not modernized to include engines or.
You think? Do you think? See, he loved to mix truth with falsehood. We know boats didn't have motors. You could save that. You could save. That's like me trying to tell my followers, yo, the boats in the 1600s, they didn't have engines. They know that. Save it. Let's keep going.
Motors that would conveniently drive the boat throughout the seas. The commercial production of steamboats or riverboats were made available at the tail end of the 1800s as well.
Now watch this, Dane. That would prove our point that those ships wasn't built to last. Because if you got wood on water for 3 months, a lot of these journeys to Africa took about 3 months. So that's wood and water and Teredo shipworms, and that don't mix. So by you're saying that, Dane, you're actually proving our point that it wasn't that simple for them to just send that speed. So let's keep going.
Which should make you wonder, how many so-called slave ships were accounted for that enabled strangers to carry a whopping 12.5 million people along?
Right. And how many ships are accounted for that just carry supplies? I showed y'all the list of the oldest surviving slave ships. How many are accounted for? Transport ships. Not that many, Dane. Not that many. Let's keep going.
Along with supplies, food, and other cargo from one continent to another.
There were some 12,000 slave ships involved in the trade, so it's a tremendous amount of work. So y'all want to come join us and dive with a purpose?
I was living in DC, and the Museum of African American History and Culture had opened, and at the very bottom of it, it has artifacts from a ship. They were part of the larger story that I was getting. And then I make it to the second floor. There was this picture, and I go to read the plaque about it, and it says it's this group called Diving with a Purpose. And this is a part of the Slave Wrecks Project, which is a larger collaboration of partners who are dedicated to finding these slave ships around the world. And I see the name of this guy, Ken Stewart.
So I used to go diving. We would get on the boat, and the folks on the boat wouldn't buddy up with me. My assumption is because I was black. It happened several times, and I didn't know really what to do. Then I found out about Dr. Jones, and the rest is history.
A lot of people consider me to be the dean of African-American divers. And I learned to dive in the military. My first official dive was 1951.
Dr. Jones is truly one of the greatest black men I have ever met.
When I came back from the military, there were people who had heard about diving, but they didn't know how to do it. One by one, people started contacting me. So I said, well, let's form a club.
These people were intent on telling their own stories. And I thought the human journey of Africans in the Americas has not been told from this lens anywhere.
Now, first summit, 2 archaeologists came in to give a talk on a Henrietta Marie slave ship. Well, once we saw the shackles, it really upset the people. We decided we were going to put a plaque down on the Henrietta Marie. Now, I've made over 6,000 dives. That was one of the most memorable dives I had because it was like diving on a grave site. You do feel like you're visiting the souls of your ancestors when you're down there. It's just difficult to explain the feeling. Sorrow, anger, disgust, and you feel a sort of feeling of helplessness. We said, you know, we need to go out and find these slave ships.
Hello, everybody.
You see, we have the slave ships. We have them. It's just like the elder said, you know, where the slave ships at? The elder had one tooth. Just because he had one tooth, does that mean he never had a mouthful of teeth? Because he only have one today? And I showed you that tooth decay is similar to wood decay. And that's not to, you know, throw the elder under the bus, but it's like that. Things deteriorate with time, with time. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you. Now, this is going to end it all. I'm going to show you the lifespan of a slave ship. All right? Let's go. Now, this is the lifespan of a slave ship. All right? And this is from Peter M. Sola and Klaus Rambach. All right? The lifespan of a slave ship is 11 years. But let's read it. It said Richardson for British-built ships in the Bristol slave trade. But this is not surprising since Richardson included ships that already worked in other trades where the capital destruction imposed by what? Shipworms was considerably less severe. For copper ships, those slaves started their careers in the middle 1780s, had a median life of 18 years, 8 years, excuse me. It had a median life of 8 years, as against about 15 years for a coppered East Indian man. You see that? So let's go to the next slide. All right. Now it says for ships with copper, it was 13 years. For ships that didn't have copper, it was 5 years. So the lifespan of a slave ship was only no more than 13 years. No more than 13 years. It said the median life of an uncoppered ship was about 5.5 years. So why the hell are you asking us where the hell are these wooden slave ships? This is why our people don't know science about woodworms, about how water affects wood and it rots and it decays. So why are you asking where are the slave ships when the average slave ship didn't have a 20-year lifespan? A 20-year lifespan. There's lifespans of ships. And you see this worm right here? That is called a Teredo navalis. And they will tear through these ships. Do you see it? Let's keep going, people.
I want to talk about the transatlantic.
Now, this is another sister, right? And it seemed like our elders are so confused. Our elders are so confused, all right? Now, this is another person who believes that the slave trade never happened. So let's listen to the sister story, and hopefully we can rescue her of her ignorance respectfully, because this is not about tearing another black person down. This is not about you stupid, you dumb. It's about showing them the right way. Anybody can attack, but let's show these abos the right way.
Slavery story that they told us starting in middle school. And they told us that we were slaves and, you know, we came over here in the bottom of a slave ship and we was primitive type people and they civilized us.
Okay. Now, if you can see this picture, because the sister showed a picture, so I had to go find a picture and blow it up. And you see a bunch of, you know, Indian people. Now, none of those people look like us. African people do not have straight hair like this. Look at these people. They just have, see, what a lot of these aboriginals fail to realize is that just because you have color, it doesn't mean you're the same genetically. They just see the color brown and say, that's me. And that's the biggest problem, because there's people of melanin all around the globe. So you get it confused when that's like a bird looking at an airplane and saying, that's my mother. You get what, or a duck looking at a ship and saying, that's my mother. Just because you have color don't mean you are the same. So let's keep going. Now, here's something from Giovanni di Verrazzano, because they always want to say that the Indians were melanated and copper colored people, and they were tawny. This is what they always say. But now this is a description from Giovanni di Verrazzano. All right. And he said, this is the finest looking tribe and the handsomest in their costumes that we have found in our voyage. They exceed us in size and they are very fair complexion. Fair complexion. Some of them incline more to a white and others to a tawny color. Their faces are sharp, their hair long and black. You see? So not all natives had color. It was natives that were of fair complexion, pale. They were pale people. So I hate when people say, well, we was already here because it was copper colored people here. And there was also pale people here too, bro. It was also pale people here. Let's keep going.
And the story that they told us, and one thing I don't understand is how, unless I don't know how the scholars, these so-called scholars.
Now she's about to throw Dr. John Henry Clark under the bus. And I got real offended by that. But I'm going to rescue the sister of her ignorance, because you're not going to. John Henry Clark been practicing African histories for decades, about 40, 50 years. You're not going to tell him he got it wrong. But let's keep going.
Couldn't figure this shit out. We got many people in the healthcare field that could have looked at this story that they told us and said, no, that couldn't have happened.
Studies in the 1940s throughout the Americas confirmed that sickle cell disease was indeed a problem wherever African slaves had been taken.
If malaria were to disappear and the selective advantage of the sickle cell trait were to be lost, one would then expect the frequency of the gene to fall in the population. This may have happened when Africans were transported from West Africa to the New World, particularly in the United States, where malarial selection disappeared. And if you compare the frequencies of approximately 20% over a large region of West Africa with the frequency of 8% or less, which is found in the US today, then it is likely that there has actually been a fall of the sickle cell trait fairly close to the expectation and to the degree of admixture with non-African blood, which one can calculate quite accurately from other genetic markers.
So sickle cell it helped us with malaria in West Africa. I have the trait. Most of my children have the trait. And if they date someone else with the trait, it's possible that their child could have the disease. So when we trace our genetics alone, it takes us back to West Africa. So what is the sister talking about? Hold on, let me let the train go past. So what is this? What is the sister talking about? Well, the healthcare got it wrong. We can trace our genes back to West Africa. Back to West Africa. Sickle cell alone. Let's keep going.
Nobody said anything about this story and critiqued this story and say, no, something is off about this story. Because listen, they told us that we came over here in the bottom of a boat. They didn't tell us it was a 3-month journey. We thinking that it was a couple-day journey. You know, it was a 3 to 4 month journey. And they say they had us packed like sardines. We didn't move for 3 months, but now they saying that they let some of us come up and they rotated us out, whatever.
All right. Now look at this image. This is a picture that was drawn, right, by Lieutenant Henry Samuel Hawker. And this was in 1816. And what do you see? You see a bunch of African people on top of the boat. So obviously they had to rotate our ancestors. They had to do some form of, so we can see it in these drawings. This is a primary source. Do you follow what I'm saying? This is a primary source. And then you know what gets me on people is that they make it like Africans didn't die. Like the slave trade was this peachy thing that happened, and 95% of our ancestors survived. Almost over 2 million Africans died. So it was nothing simple about the slave trade. And this is what makes it so worse for you to deny that history, because of those extreme conditions of being in your feces and refusing to eat and committing suicide and all of this stuff that they went through. And for you to say that it didn't happen today, that's making it worse, because you know what they went through. But you would rather deny it because nobody want to be an African. Nobody. Renuko Rashidi said they would rather be called turds in a toilet before they accept being from Africa, with the most diverse continent. Diverse. Let's keep going.
Whatever. So they claim.
No, you can't say whatever, sister. You can't say whatever, because by you saying whatever, you're just saying, well, they didn't rotate them. They rotated them. So don't say whatever.
They had us packed like sardines in the bottom of a boat. So we pissing and we defecating on each other. Okay. When you in the healthcare field, you rotate them every 2 hours just for circulation, so the blood can circulate. We accepted this story, not to even think about how they said. See, it had to have been somebody, whoever came up with this story, couldn't have been in the medical field. Okay, then you claim that it was not enough oxygen down there that you couldn't even light a match. So how was
now? Does the sister know that even the Europeans that was on those slave ships, they didn't even last a long time? Most of them were dying. Go check out my video. Matter of fact, I'm going to share that. I'm going to share that in the end. Most of the Europeans who were operating on those slave ships, they were dying, catching diseases. This is why the Dobin Act was created, to abolish the slave trade. Because of those conditions. Like, there are laws out there. So for you Aboriginals, so-called Aboriginals, to accept treaties, you know, they always bring up the treaties and how many treaties the Indians had and all of that. But they forget about a lot of those slave trade laws that abolished the slave trade. There's laws, there's actual documents that you can see. So you can't accept treaties and then deny the laws that abolish the slave trade. It don't work like that. You can't have your cake and eat it too. That's called cherry picking. Just like we accept the treaties, you have to accept the laws, the numerous laws that was created to abolish the slave trade. Let's keep going.
These people breathing, and not to mention they pissing and defecating on each other. So just imagine the smell.
Now here it goes. It says, all right, now I'm going to stop right there and I'm going to read it, okay? Now, it says, crew members were often the direct recipients of cruelty, frequently forced into ship service because of debts, which means they didn't even want to be there. Those Europeans on those ships did not want to be there. They were forced because of debts or running with the law. Sailors performed the backbreaking and often violent work of the slave ship, which included building a house and barricado, cooking and dispensing food, scrubbing the decks, and the often feces-covered holes where the slaves were kept. So they would come in there and they would clean up the feces that this sister was talking about. So no, it wasn't just left there. It didn't just stay there for 3 months. They had to come and clean it up. We have to stop. See, we got to stop allowing people to get in front of a camera and just talk. No, you gotta source up. And it says, scrubbing the decks and also often feces covered holes where the slaves were kept and policing the captive Africans. They also were the victim of their officers. So even the crewmen were whipped and suffered from the same diseases that ravaged the Africans, so that the mortality rate among the sailors, according to one survey taken between 1784 and 1790, reached higher than 21%. In fact, according to Riddinger, half of all Europeans who journeyed to West Africa in the 18th century, most of them seamen, died within a year. They died within 1 year. So no, the slave trade wasn't pretty. It wasn't pretty at all. Members were often the direct recipient. Now let's keep going. Most of them, even the occurred if the journals of slavery. Now we're going to talk about the Dobin Act, because the Dobin Act was because of the conditions of the slave trade. And when I finish, hopefully it's some abos in here. And, shout out to the people who stuck around. Hopefully it's some abos in here that would like to speak on this information. Because you can never say what happened to those slave ships. You can't say that anymore. We know about the wood, the shipworms. We know about wood decay. We know about termites. We know about wood is weak in general. We know the lifespan is what? The average lifespan is 13 years. So why do you expect for us to have a ship from 500 years ago? Why? Why are you asking for something like that? If you knew how you sound, you wouldn't ask that question. Where are the... So now, for the people in the chat, just ask them. Say, don't say that. Say, where are the wooden ships? We don't want to hear ships because it could be an iron ship. It could be a copper. It could be any kind of material. But you have to say what happened to those wooden ships. You have to do it. Slave ship surgeons, we find that most slaves who died did so near the middle of the voyage. Crowding was important. So we had crowding. We had crowding on those slave ships. We had the crew members dying. Everybody was dying. So anybody want to chime in on that? So Kemet TV said, so disease does not spread and they get their price for cargo. Right. There were even insurance companies that was created because slaves was dying. There's insurance companies where they had, when you look at the Zong massacre, they was throwing slaves off of those ships because insurance covered slaves drowning, but not slaves being sick. Do you see what I'm saying? So they would throw them overboard. And then Kemet King said, to insure the ship, insure the slave, right? Insurance. That's why there's a lot of stuff you can actually see online where they had these. Here it goes right here. Let's go to that real quick, people. Just stay with me. Now, this is William Dobin. William Dobin has argued no cause was dearer to him than the abolish of slavery. And another thing that you got to understand, because they always want to try to make it like they was abolitionists. They was against the slave trade. No, that's bullshit. A lot of the times they had enough slaves over here. And then you had slaves that they were breeding. So it wasn't about, because if they were so concerned with abolishing the slave trade, they would have did it hundreds and hundreds of years ago. And they try to hit us with that. Well, he was so abolition of slavery. That's bullshit. It was enough slaves. They ain't need no more. They had slaves in Brazil. They had slaves in North America. And then they were still doing it illegally. So a lot of times when y'all say where the slave trades at, where the slave ships, you got to understand that a lot of those ships were secret. So they would run into other the law, and the law would shoot those ships down. They would sink those ships with our ancestors on them. Kemet TV said the concern for the abolishment of slavery is the South's economic power over the North because white folks loved us. Yo, you see, that's the truth. That's the truth. They was, and you know what's crazy about white people? White people will kill themselves for power. They act like it's because they live in one part of America in the South. They will go to war with their own people. Even if you look at the independence, they were going to war with Britain. Where do you think a lot of these people came from? Europe. It's always them fighting over power. No names. It's a list of the deceased slaves of the ships. Yes, and you can actually go to the slave voyages. And then when you go to the slave voyages, you can find the actual stories and documents from those slave stories. So for you to deny the transatlantic slave trade is delusional. It's delusion. And this is why they always ask the question, but never go find the answer. That always bugged me out, because if I wasn't aware of something and I had a question, I'm going to make sure I go and find it and seek it. I'm not going to ask the question just so I could deny it. That don't make any sense. Europeans have Darkside said Europeans have almost annihilated each other many times. And I was just looking at the movie Greyhound when they be going to war, Germany going to war with the US and Britain. And then, that movie kind of bugged me out because they wanted to make it like that the black man was just a server. And he was just my great-great-grandfather was in World War II. So for me to see that movie and have them make the world believe that we were just waiting and just serving when it was an African man who sunk a German ship. So they always going to war with themselves because it's about power. But then they would tell us, well, Africans, so other Africans, get over it. As if Hitler wasn't a white man. Kemet TV said they white North went to war with the white South for economic domination over the South, which is why a lot of the industrialization happened up north. Right. That's what it was about. That whole thing with the Union and the Confederate. It was they wanted that power. And then this is why when a lot of those slaves were free, what did they do? They ran to the North because they didn't want nothing to do with the South because of all of those memories of being on that plantation. And then they went right to the North just to be exploited for their talent. Then you got the blues, you got the Cotton Club, you got all of the stuff, the jazz and the music. So they seen that as a way to leave the South, not knowing that it's not going to be any better up there. Because they just sent us back down here to perform for the white people. But yeah, anybody, any Aboriginal TV Power was supposed to come in here and address this video. Any Aboriginals lurking in the chat that want to come in and speak about, where the slave ships is at? Where Darkside said, where are the wooden pilgrim ships? Where they at? Where they at? Where are the other ships? I don't see I don't see any of those ships. Just the everyday ships that was transporting tobacco and food and rice. Where are those ships? You're talking about wood rots. They were exploited. Kemet TV said they were exploited for the talent after slavery. Then the Union hired all the white and Ellis Island immigrants. You peep that? What they do? It was like this, right? It's like we built the land. Our ancestors built the land just so the Europeans could come in and enjoy the fruits of our ancestors' labor. And then when they came here, they wanted to make everybody else feel like they were the immigrants and that they should have went back to where they came from. That always bugged me out. Like, how you forget that you came over here on a boat while our ancestors, our African ancestors, was here building this country. So you're right, Kemet TV. That's a fact. They used our talents, and then what they do, they started creating stuff like the red lining, and where you can't get credit where a European could get a home and black people can't qualify for the same home. Even though our ancestors helped build this land and build this country. So I wanted to make this brief video so we see the lifespan of the ship is about 13 years. And that's with copper. And the copper was created to prevent the Teredos, the Teredo Navalis, which was a shipworm for those who came in late. The Irish terrorized the free northern blacks and free southern blacks. And guess what they do? They love to talk about how the Irish was treated just like black people. And look how we lift ourselves up by our bootstraps. And then they came in and did the same thing. Just like the Jewish, I'm about to get caught out there, just like the J people. Because the J people came in and then they was able to be white. So they was able to benefit from just being white. You're making a lot of sense right there. So I'm about to wrap it up. I swear it's like the Aboriginals be. It's like my channel is a virus. They avoid at all costs. But you see, you gotta do that. You gotta do that because you're not gonna go look for things that disagree with you. Because then you will have to wake up from your illusion. So a lot of times they would just tune in and then click off. They'll come right in like, oh, no, because they don't want to get woke up from what they believe. So they hide, but they'll rather troll your comment section with a bunch of questions. But when you go live, they're nowhere to be found. They are nowhere to be found. So everybody that's in here, please share this video. It costs nothing. It's free. You know what I mean? I'm not in here asking for anything, but just to share it because the Aboriginals, they shared that spooky stuff. They shared Dane Calloway and his spooky dookie music. You know what I mean? That spooky dookie music with no facts or nothing. Just him talking. But when I come to you and I show you the Teredos, the shipworm, and I show you that how the ships decayed from the wood decay and termites. So I'm not just speaking, I'm actually giving you answers of what happened to those slave ships. I'm not just saying, well, where are they? No, I went out and I said, let me find out what happened to them. And you get what I'm saying? And please hit the like button and just share it. Because it's like, how are we going to combat this if we're not sharing the videos? You know what I mean? How are we going to combat somebody that could easily say, yo, the slave trade never happened, but let him say the J Holocaust never happened? You know what I'm talking about. See if he's going to survive. See if he's going to survive on YouTube land. So anybody, no abos in the building. Not one. Not one abo in the building right now. Not one. All right, let me go back. Let me show y'all something real quick. Hold on. Can y'all still see my screen, right? So we see this. Look at all of these ships. This is a list of all the oldest ships. We got the Mary Rose, 1511. This is from 1511, and this is what it looks like. And this is actually being preserved somewhere. And do you know how much money it would take to preserve slave ships or ships in general? They don't got the time or the resources. Look at these ships. These are the oldest slave ships. What we got? The La Belle. Look at that. What is that? So why are you asking me where are those slave ships? The Barque. You gotta give me a regular ship. See what a lot of times what they do, family, is that they look at boats like this, where these type of boats are not put under those extreme conditions. So we still have those. You don't got a bunch of people when you're traveling for 3 months in the North Atlantic. You get what I'm saying? Let's keep going. And then as the time gets older and as time goes by, ships start to preserve because you're using different material. So now, we know what it is, family. 22 Miss. Oh, let's go. Who is this? Sir Roosevelt. You in the building, bro? And I hope you didn't dip. Come on in here. I'm going to drop the link. Because somebody, there we go. I love it. Somebody come through. Let's get it. Yup. Click that link, Sir Roosevelt. Let me hear what you got to say, bro. And I salute you, because if you do come through, that shows that at least you're willing to challenge what you believe in. And I'm gonna listen respectfully. Come in the building. All right. You said you in the chat. Nah, bro, come in the building. I mean, if you don't feel comfortable, I understand. I can't make you do nothing you don't want to do. But what, you got some questions? If you don't want to, tune in, what's up? Or you want to come through? This is your chance, bro. Like, you came in here, you already came in here disrespectful, calling people, dick riders. So if you can talk like that in the chat, you could step in the building. You could climb in the ring, bro. Or if you don't want to climb in the ring, this is what you do, right? You go hit your boy Aboriginal Power Up and let them come in here, because they all avoid me. So you gonna come in? Come get this smoke. How they say it? Get the smoke. Come get the smoke. I be having too many Aboriginals trolling my comment section, trolling everywhere. All right. Okay. So you said where they kept hundreds of slaves, bro. Roosevelt, what is that? Come in when my kids sleep, because you can't step out. You don't got a phone to step outside. But anyway, I understand that. You can't always tune in. But that's a question, brother. You can't come in here with questions. That simply means you don't know. And Aboriginals always do that. Like, where they kept the hundreds of slaves, bro? Where you think? On the ship. At the bottom of the ship. And they brought them up. And they rotated them. Where else? What you got? Any more questions, brother? Because you know, questions don't mean you got proof. It's simple. The last time I checked, a question means you didn't know something. And then what you should have did, brother, was you should have said, well, where they kept them at? And then go do that research. Don't use your, all right, it's impossible to survive those conditions. Okay, so are you going to act like 2 million people, 2 million of our African ancestors didn't survive? I mean, excuse me, didn't die on those ships through the Middle Passage? Millions of our ancestors died. Did you hear what I said, bro? Millions of them died. So for you to say it was, a lot of them died. But at the end of the day, you got to understand one thing about us as African people. We survive shit. Just look at how we survived all hundreds of years in slavery here. That's why they went to get the best people for the job. They're not going to go and get some weak ass people and bring them over here to America. They went to get the strongest, the people who knew how to grow shit. So that's what it is, bro. He said, Sean Parker said, shout out to you, bro. He said, do the armchair abo. Word, come in the building, man. I'll step outside. Millions of us was here already. And I hear that a lot, but you haven't proved it. A lot of Aboriginals still haven't proved it, because what you do is you look for resemblance. Say, well, that person had color, but you fail to realize that there were natives here who didn't have color. So that's you too, bro, huh? You the natives that didn't have any color, the people that was already here, right? Bro, you late. He already said what facts. And I wish you would step in the building, man. Any more Aboriginals in here? Any more Indians, so-called Indians in here? I know it gotta be like one or two that you're sitting like, nah, should I? Nah, I ain't gonna do it. Come through. How often do YK do this? But I'm gonna be doing a lot of lives, and I promise you, every live I do, I'm coming with information. I'm not just gonna be here talking to y'all, because that's what a lot of these Aboriginal TV, they'll do a 5-hour live, but nobody is providing any sources for their information. There we go. That's what I'm talking about. Back to you, bro. He came in the building. What's up?
Yeah, nigga. What's up, YK, man?
Hey, what's
man,
good?
let me first shout you out, bro. I was just talking shit in the chat to the, you know what I'm saying, these little dick riding ass niggas, but I ain't got no problem against you, YK. I've been fucking with you since you went out to Pharaoh back in the day a couple years ago, so I'll let you know that. But I did have questions and a few, you know, comments to add in on that. My first one was, yes, where did they keep the slaves at?
Right, they kept the slaves. You talking about on the bottom of the ships, right, brother?
Right.
Right. So you know that's where they kept them.
And I also said, where's the proof of that? If you're not showing any proof of that, yeah, you showing wooden ships from the 1500s, but those aren't slave ships or cargo ships where they can bring hundreds of thousands of slaves back and forth, back and forth.
All right.
Those ships
What I did, brother, was show you the many primary sources. There's laws that came into place because of those conditions. All right, brother, do you accept the treaties that happened with the Indians? Do you accept treaties?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
So you accept that history,
paper.
Right?
It's just paper, bro. But yeah,
all right, but you accept that there was treaties that took place, right?
I don't have no choice but to accept.
Okay, so so in that stance, you can accept the fact that there were laws made because of the conditions of those slave ships, actual documents, like the Dobbins Act, like the Slave Trade Act. So do you deny those laws but accept those treaties?
I'm not saying that slavery didn't exist. And I'm not saying that some people didn't come from Africa by ship. But I would say those boats were used mostly along the coast of the Americas, up and down. I wouldn't say they were going across the Atlantic Ocean back and forth with hundreds, thousands of people. I just don't.
So you
that's not
agree
even
that
logical.
so you agree that they came from Africa, right?
No, I don't believe that. I do believe that it was indigenous black people here. It was indigenous black people on all four corners of the earth, man.
All right.
That's
So
what I
you
believe.
so you accept that the Africans, you accept the slave trade laws that was in place. Because that's what I just asked you. You accept those laws because you accept the treaties, but you accept those slave trade laws, right, brother?
Hey, bro, whatever's history, that's what they say it is.
Right.
Man.
So they say we come from Africa.
But bro, when you do your own research, you do your own due diligence, it's called doing your own family research, bro. And that's where you
Okay,
can
and
find
what
out where
and
you
what
get it
and
from.
what okay, see what you're doing right now, you're backpedaling. But you know what it is, bro? Because when the evidence come in, you can only say that not all people come from Africa. See, that's a way to get out of it. You get what I'm saying? Since we give you the evidence, wait, look, we come from Africa. So the only thing you could do is say, well, not all black people. But my question is, how do you know that you're not one of those Africans? What DNA test have you done to prove that you're not one of those Africans that came from the slave trade?
Well, the thing is, bro, I don't have to do a DNA test. I could just simply look back on my family tree and find out who's the eldest member. Go
All
to
right,
that person.
and how far do your family tree go back?
I can ask back as far as I still got my great grandma here, man. She
Okay,
remembers
so
her
that's
great
a
grandma.
huge
So we
problem.
can go back.
All right,
We
hold
can
on,
go
brother.
back at least a
Hold
couple
on,
hundred
brother.
years.
Hold on, brother. And you know what they call that? They call that the brick wall. Because you can't, the reason why you can't go back is because of the things that happened during slavery and the slave trade. A lot of our ancestors wasn't human. They wasn't documented. So you're not going to be able to trace them past that brick wall. And that would
But
make
neither were the Native
hold on, brother.
Americans either.
Right, but if you
No,
were,
no.
but listen, brother, if you was an American, if you was an Indian, you would still be able to trace that ancestry. Not only that, you would still have your native language, your native name, because the natives still had a culture, brother. There's still natives today that speak native language. So
Right, by
why
that
don't you
logic, if
think
we
that?
came from Africa, then we would still have our native tongue.
No,
We
we
would still
wouldn't,
have our
because they
native
took it. Listen,
names
because
and
I'm gonna tell
culture.
you why. I'm gonna tell you why. Because they took our language from us on those plantations. But the
But they didn't
natives,
take the
hold on,
natives.
right? You know why? Because a lot of natives was able to be free on their land. Not all natives were enslaved by Europeans in America. Not all of them. Do you accept that?
Yeah, I can accept that. I
So you
definitely
would
can
still,
because
so you would
I can
right,
identify as a native.
right.
Yes,
So you would
but
still
yeah,
have right. So your ancestors would have still had to have communication using their original tongue with those natives, those free natives. So y'all would have still kept that language and that culture. So how did you lose your language, and how did you let somebody come to your land and make you forget your language?
it's the same way they came to somebody else's land and
Right,
snatched up a
but you
whole
know what it
bunch of
is. But
millions of
look,
people and brought
right,
them to another
right.
land.
But if
It's
you go
just
to
that easy.
But if you go to Africa and West Africa, it was Europeans all through that. But the Africans still have their language, Igbo. They still can speak. They still have their culture.
That's their home.
Right, this
We
your
don't have
home.
a home.
But
Bro.
you this
We
this
don't
is
have a home.
so this not your home, brother.
This is our home.
You just
That
said
is
it
not
was,
our home.
brother. You just said this wasn't your home. You said you
No,
ain't
I'm
have a
saying
home.
that I was meaning Africa. They don't have. We don't belong to them. That's not our home.
So where's your
We have
home?
no connection. We don't have no connection to Africa.
So where's your home, brother?
It would have to be here, just like yours. It
Right.
would
So
have to
you
be
let
here.
somebody come to your home and make you forget who you were. How? We give the white man too much credit. Nobody, you can
It's the
go to the
same.
war.
It's the
Hold
same
on.
how. It's the same how as the white man going to Africa from Europe,
No, it's not,
snatching up
because he
a
brought us.
whole bunch of.
Oh, brother, I just explained it to you. He brought us here, enslaved us from another place. So we in a whole foreign land. You're home. You're home, and there's free natives running around. So how did you forget your language, your name, if you got relatives that's free? Explain that to me, brother.
Obviously, man, something must have went down during the industrialization period where they was able to just completely wash us from all our cultural and traditional ways and be more, I would say, American, man. I don't know. I really don't know how to answer for you.
I know
It's just,
what it is, bro. I'm gonna tell you what.
it's the same answer I would get. It's the same question I would give. Why have we lost all our African traditional everything?
You know why?
The white man
Because
kidnapped us and brought us over here. We would have a little bit of it. We don't have nothing.
You know why?
We pretty much just black white people.
Hold on, let me explain it to you, brother. I'm gonna explain it to you. Right, when you leave here, you're gonna have the doubt is gonna be gone. For one,
man,
is that,
hold on.
I got you,
bro. With you. I do learn from you, okay? So teach, man.
I got you. So this is what happened. The reason why they wanted us to forget Africa is because just the thought of being home caused rebellions. This is why a person, African who came off the boat, was more rebellious than the ones that was born here. So in order for to keep the slaves in line, they could never think about another place outside of being enslaved. You get what I'm saying? You can't think about being African. You can't speak that African language. You can't practice Muslim because a lot of West Africans came here and they practice Islam. So you gotta leave all that alone because that's trouble. Being an African is trouble. Being a native is not trouble because it was already trouble because y'all knew this land. If you're home, you know where to go. You know where to hide. You know everywhere. This your shit. Nobody not going to tell you. They can't even find you because you know shit that Europeans don't know. You've been here. You follow what I'm saying? So this is why they had to take our identity completely because it made us want to rebel. You get what I'm saying? Because if you know where you come from and you know who you are, you know you're not a slave. You know this is not your life. You know you had a culture. You get what I'm saying? So, and I appreciate you coming through, bro.
Yeah. Well, I had one more question. So,
all right, go ahead.
What do you say for all the documentation, i.e., like the Christopher Columbus journal? That would say that, when they came up on arrival, they already seen colored folks with our hair. You know what I'm saying? They looked just like us. It was if, they ain't know where they was in because they seen a continent or a land full of brown, black people. So What do you have to say about that? That shows you that most of us or some of us is already here.
Okay.
Yeah, I do feel like we've all mixed in now. Yeah.
I get what you're saying. Bro, but I'm gonna tell you like this. Christopher Columbus was not a geneticist. De la Casas, he was not a geneticist. He was not a an anthropologist. He just seen people with color. And I'm gonna say this: just because you have color, don't mean you're the same genetically. There's colored people all over the world, but they are not the same. So when Christopher Columbus came here, he said, well, they must be like them people. But there's other people who say, look, there was fair-skinned people here. There were pale people here. So are you those people too? Because it's Di Verrazano said that they were pale. So are you those? Are your people pale too?
Be honest, yeah. That's why I'm a little, little light skinned. I mean, I'm being honest. Yeah, my mother's side is, they more the natives. My dad from Haiti. So yeah.
You said your dad from Haiti?
My dad's side, yeah. My dad's
side.
Yeah,
exactly. And you know what that means? You straight out of West Africa. All the Africans were brought to Haiti and Cuba. And
I really thought we was already there. Haiti's just chilling.
Nah,
I really thought. This is what I really thought. I really thought, you know, ancient African civilizations explored the world and set up shop in these different continents. So yeah, theoretically, we all African, but you know what I'm saying? Thousands of years removed, we've been here. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I would say
That's what I'm
hundreds
really
of
trying to
years
say.
because we was brought
All
from.
right,
But at least I appreciate you, bro. At least you acknowledge that we are from Africa, man. Because
yeah, for sure.
yeah, man, because we all over. We in Brazil, we in Cuba. But you know,
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you what proves one thing that proves the transatlantic slave trade, right? If you go to Brazil, what's the main religion in Brazil?
It would be Christianity. I
If
mean,
you
not
go
Catholicism. Yeah.
but it's like Christianity.
Yeah, Christianity. Yeah.
Right.
They got
If
that
you
big
go to
ass
Puerto
Jesus
Rico,
up there.
if you go to Puerto Rico or any of these places in South America,
Spaniards got it. Yeah, that's
Spaniards,
Christianity.
right. So
Yeah.
that would show you that it validates the transatlantic slave trade because those was the dudes who came and got us, the Portuguese,
Oh yeah, those are the
the
colonizers.
British,
Yeah.
and yeah. So we know what's up. But I appreciate you coming through, bro. Anybody
All
else
right, for
want to
sure,
come in?
bro.
No, I really do, bro. Thank you.
All right, much love. Peace.
All right, peace. But yeah, who this? Dino Green? Shout out to Dino Green. My bad, I didn't even see you in here.
Oh man, can you hear me, big? Well, how you doing, my brother? YK, the truth. I've actually been following you for quite a while, man. I want to definitely give you some, some props and love. I'm also from the East Coast, I'm from Boston. Can you hear
Shout
me?
out to you, yes, brother. Shout out to you. I can hear you.
All right. I just want to say this: I am 100% Igbo, and everything that you've been saying, dropping it down, as far as like the knowledge or whatever, man, like. It's fact. I've actually went home for the first time in a couple of months ago, and literally, spoke to some like family members, and they was talking about how we also have some family, taken in the slave trade, and also I also wanted to like also wanted to basically confirm some of the language that had been brought in over here, some of the foods. Like the brother that was just on, he said he's Haitian. Man, they even still have some foods and they still call it like certain dishes like that still exist and they still pronounce it the way Nigerians pronounce it to this day. You know what I'm saying? And but all I can really say is I just came here to just like just say thank you. You are making sure that some of this history is not being, it's not vanishing through this time right now where like, I don't know what's going on with the social media, but like, like it's as if there's like some kind of collection of the pseudo Moor history mixed with the pseudo Native American stuff. And it's like, they're basically trying to take the history of Black Africans and repaint it with a Native American paintbrush right now.
Right.
So I mean, it's crazy. You ask me, I feel like it's downright demonic, but I thank you for making sure that this history does not die down. And like brothers like you, I mean, and brothers like you and brothers like Rob on.
Yes, shout out to the brother Rob on. That's a beast, but yeah, shout out to him, man.
And there's another brother named, Pan African Strikes Back, or whatever. I'm not gonna try to go down a whole list, man, but you are definitely, one of them giants. You know what I'm saying? As far as like, brothers that are like keeping that integrity and the voice of the ancestors, still speaking through, just even though, the channel was still growing, I got faith in you, you know what I'm saying? So just keep it up, bro. You know what
I
I'm saying?
appreciate you, man. I ain't gonna stop, man.
Sure.
All right,
sure, man.
All right. Peace. Peace to the chat too. I'm about to wrap it up. We had a good little bill, and shout out to Sir Roosevelt, man. Cause you didn't have to come in here, man. You didn't have to come through the fire, and you came in here. So I salute to you, man. that was real. So it's your brother YK, man, and I'm out. Peace, man.
Indication that these Native American groups, which we are claiming relationships with, are really the descendants of the first people in the Americas. In other words, to make a long story short, I think this Aboriginal thing is nonsense. I think it's anti-African. I think it's destructive to our community.
Watch me do it for my ancestors. Watch me do it for my ancestors. They try to say that it ain't happened. It ain't what? But you know that they be capping on. Watch me do it for my ancestors. Watch me do it for my ancestors. They try to say that it ain't happened. It ain't what? But I know that they be capping on. Now they wanna ask about a boat. Looking at them cause I know that it's a joke. It's a joke. Because they don't really see that they needed the boats more than forced slavery. Dumb nigga. So miss me with the dumb shit. My ancestors built the drums with the drumsticks. So you could move on your feet. So I could groove to the beat. But you rather be an Indian. But you look more like a pretendian. Columbus named you when he came through with Spain. Oof. You wanna say DNA ain't real. You need help, take your ass to Dr. Phil. And why you wanna steal from the natives? Leave them alone, you got your own flavors. Stop being a culture vulture, please. Stop being a culture vulture, nigga, please. Stop being a culture vulture, please. Stop being a culture vulture. Watch me do it for my ancestors. Watch me do it for my ancestors. They try to say that it ain't happened. It ain't what? But you know that they be capping on. Watch me do it for my ancestors. Watch me do it for my ancestors. They try to say that it ain't happened. It ain't what? But you know that they be capping on.